Welcome everybody to Hey Kentucky, presented by Wendy's and Sullivan University. The casting call ended after a long time, and Josh Corman won, and he is my co-host tonight. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well. Who do I see about my championship belt?
You don't get one. I'm sorry. Now, let me say something here. Josh is a teacher, so we actually have a ton of topics about teachers in the news, so we decided the whole A block is Josh as a teacher, and we'll talk teacher issues, and let's begin with the latest on Kentucky's pension crisis. Teachers descended on Frankfort en masse today as lawmakers debated Senate Bill 1, which is the state's attempt at addressing the funding problems for the state pensions. By the middle of the day, word came that a substitute bill was being introduced. They were taking away the original bill. It makes some changes, including curbing an expected reduction in the cost of living adjustment a little bit. But full details of the bill are not actually out yet. They said it'll be released later. Now, earlier in the day, Kentucky Attorney General Andy Beshear released a video saying the first version of the Senate bill was illegal for 21 different reasons. Josh, you're a teacher. When you hear all this, I know you talk to a lot of teachers. What's your take?
It's hard to know where to look at this point as a teacher because the plan comes out and then it faces criticism, and we as teachers are sort of, it feels almost removed from the issue. You're in the classroom doing your work and trying to serve students and serve these schools. But ultimately, it feels like people making decisions, once again, about education that aren't in that same arena. They're not in that world. And as I see people descend on Frankfort and try to kind of, take up the cause and put a face, I think, for legislators to the people who are going to have to deal with the effects of this bill, I'm proud to see that, and I'm happy for it. When I hear what Attorney General Beshear has to say, it does make me wonder how thoroughly this is being thought through.
Well, I will say this. First of all, the teachers went en masse. I mean, that room was filled. The hallway was filled. They only let 3 people talk. But I think the teachers have been amazingly powerful. The original bill Bevin wanted screwed teachers to a huge amount. The next bill I don't think is good, but it wasn't quite as bad, and now they've made even another move. I actually think, Josh, the teachers have shown a lot of power in this.
I hope so. What you're seeing in West Virginia right now is I think they're on their 5th consecutive day out of school because teachers are on strike. And if that pension bill...
Do you think that's something that might happen here?
I think West Virginia's union is a little bit different than the union here, and that would affect it. But I do think that day could come if the pension crisis isn't resolved.
Now, as Frankfort debates how to address the crisis, a plan has been put forth to give local governments, school districts, and others more time to adjust to the soaring costs that could be associated with it. The measure would limit annual pension contribution increases for cities, counties, school districts, and others in the county employee system to 12% a year. It would also allow regional mental health centers, local health departments, and others to exit the retirement system in a way that would help them cope as well. Now, Josh, this is the part of all this that isn't talked about enough, which is most of what they're doing here is shifting some of this cost from the state to local governments. And a lot of these local governments cannot pay for it. This is to try to alleviate that. What do you think?
I am in favor of anything that can keep local governments from having to shut down services that they're providing in local communities, because if you put that kind of financial burden on them and they've got to make choices between this essential service or that essential service, you're putting them in impossible situations. They're not going to be able to resolve that and serve their communities. But at the same time, there is a worry, I think, that you keep kind of passing this off, and they don't know what their liability is going to end up being, and they
don't have the money, Josh. I mean, it's that simple. Like, it's not about when they can pay it. A lot of these districts can't meet budget now. A lot of these districts are barely able to go now, and the state knows that. They know it, and they're still shifting burdens on them. I just don't know how they justify it.
Yeah, I think if you're a member of one of those communities, and like you said, it's not being talked about enough, so if you don't know what the end result of this is going to be, go and ask questions.
If you're in a small town, if you're watching this and you're in a small town with a small school district, you are going to get screwed in this, and they have to have a voice. Now to the debate over school security. Following a public meeting in Pike County, Pike County High School has decided to potentially allow teachers to begin carrying guns provided they have proper certification. That plan is expected to meet some resistance. And at the Fayette County level, the superintendent is calling on Matt Bevin to follow Florida's lead by putting a law enforcement officer in every public school, hiring mental health counselors, and increasing funding to provide metal detectors, bulletproof glass, and other things. Now, Josh, you're a teacher. Would you want teachers in your school to be armed?
No, and I wouldn't do it personally, kind of get that out of the way, but there are school resource officers where I work at Henry Clay. There was a school resource officer where I worked in Jessamine County. And those people are law enforcement professionals. They are trained to be in active shooter situations, live fire situations, and to put the burden on those people to have 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 additional weapons floating around that school as variables that they would have to deal with in an active shooter situation. I've been in active shooter trainings with the state police as a teacher, being trained what to do and how to get students out of there. I can't imagine being in that position, being a trained professional, and then being asked to account for those variables floating around the building. Who knows who's going to come around the corner thinking that they're doing the right thing to stop a shooter, and then the law enforcement pros have to deal with that.
I mean, teachers are not trained for this.
Right.
And I don't think giving 20 hours, plus the idea, what happens to the gun at other times?
Sure.
This is not a situation where I don't think teachers are going to be wearing the gun while they're teaching, so they're going to keep it somewhere, which is dangerous in and of itself. You know, Pike County's going to test it. That's their right. I just have a hard time thinking that's the way to go.